We have 4 speakers today, and I know you're going to enjoy all 4 of them. Our first one is former Sheriff of Jacksonville, John Rutherford. I looked up his bio. His bio is so long that it would take me all day to read it. But it's enough to say that he has served 2 terms as the Sheriff of Jacksonville and more than 30 years in the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. We're so privileged to have him with us this morning.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Let me tell you what an honor it is to be here with this group of disciples, this group of shepherds, this group of folks who are going into this community to make a difference. You all remind me of a fella. He was an early 20th century monarch in Ethiopia. His name was Haile Selassie. Haile said this: "Throughout history, it has been the inaction of those who could have acted, the indifference of those who should have known better, and the silence of the voice of justice when it mattered most, that has allowed evil to triumph." You are not inactive. You are not indifferent. And you have been a voice for justice. So I thank you very much for that. Give yourselves a hand, because you deserve it. Let me tell you, it has been an honor to serve this community as not just as sheriff, but as a police officer for the past 41 years. And I can tell you, Richard and I were speaking earlier about, the changes that I've seen, this creation, what I call the death culture, that really I think was the cornerstone of which goes back to 1973 with Roe v. Wade. That's when we officially destroyed the sanctity of life with an official act of this country. And that's what concerns me most. And now with the development of this entire culture of death, the attack on the family, I really wish Pope Francis had spoken out even more strongly about this culture of death and this attack on the family, which is the basis of our free society. The fact that we can have something that years ago was actually against the law, there was a law against sodomy, and now we glorify it by bathing the White House in the colors of a homosexual colors. It just, in a quick 30 years, it's amazing, maybe 40 years, it's amazing how we have changed on these issues. And it reminds me of a story in 1877 during the first Constitutional Convention. After they had signed the Constitution, they had, through that almost 90 days, George Washington used one chair. And on the back of that chair, Benjamin Franklin told James Madison, he talked about the back of the chair, because on the upper top back of Washington's chair was the depiction of the sun half covered by the horizon. And he told Madison, he said, as we've gone through this process, I've looked at that and often wondered, is that a rising sun or is it a sitting sun? And he told Madison, now I know. It truly is a rising sun, because they had just constructed the greatest governmental structure known to man that had ever been created. But more than that, Franklin knew from the discussions, he knew from what was going on in the country at that time, that even more than that, we had a population that was virtuous. They believed in God. That was so important. Os Guinness, and I'd like all of you to go look this article up. Os Guinness wrote an article called The Golden Triangle. And what he said in that is, the Golden Triangle is this: if you want freedom, the kind of freedom that this country desires, then we have to have a virtuous population. Franklin knew back in 1787 that we had a virtuous population. They were self-constrained by their own personal virtue. So with that virtue, you have to have faith. And if you have faith, then you can have that virtue that will give you the freedom that this country desires, and that is the Golden Triangle. And I think if Benjamin Franklin were here today, if he saw the protest in New York City of people walking down the street chanting, "Death to cops, when do we want it? We want it now." And then a week later, 2 officers are executed in the front seat of their police car. I wonder if Franklin would think that the sun is rising, that this nation is rising, or are we diminishing? If he had seen the White House bathed in those colors, would he think America is on the rise, or are we diminishing? If he knew the fact that we have killed over 55 million babies in this country, would he think this is a nation on the rise, or are we diminishing? Well, folks, I want to tell you, this is a battle whose importance I don't have to tell you. The very soul of this country is at stake. You know, I think of Sodom. You know, if there's 10 righteous people, you know, I'll say, thank God for you. Because I believe God hasn't changed. Over all these millennia, God has not changed. He always held Israel accountable. He will always hold us accountable. And I believe, but for the remnant that are trying to do the right thing, trying to move this country in the right direction, I honestly believe we would have already had a great shaking. So again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your action. Thank you for your lack of indifference. Thank you for being a voice for justice in this country. God bless you all.
That was absolutely an amazing history, as well as kind of the where we are in terms of our country. And we need to heed this. All of us. We need to leave today with a new reinvigoration to be more dedicated to making this world a better place. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff.